Hello YouTube and fellow Star Wars collectors. On this episode of Toys Are the Way, we'll be taking a look at a character from the most recent wave of vintage collection figures for 2025, Nightsister Merrin from Jedi Survivor. Welcome back gang and channel members. So here we have yet again another vintage collection delivery, and this time it is a Nightsister. We're getting Merrin from Jedi Survivor. I'm always in support of getting more video game figures into the vintage collection. While I don't game as much as I used to back in the day, I always appreciate these characters and think they're really important to get into the line. Also, I'm a big fan of Nightsisters in general, and Merrin is a really cool character in my opinion. I'm also actually very excited about the number of accessories that come with this figure, so that's also cool. And it's nice to get, Cal Kestis a little bit more support on our collection shelves. So always great to see. But with all that being said and done, don't forget to smash a like on this video, subscribe if you're new, or even become a channel member, and let's take a closer look at the packaging and figure. Taking a look at our vintage style packaging, we have the Star Wars and Jedi Survivor logo looking absolutely fantastic up top, followed by Nightsister Merrin on a purple name pill color. We have a wonderful image of the character looking like a Nightsister with all that green magic and the Kenner logo down below. And then we have this nice looking figure fully articulated on a bubble with a number of accessories. On the back, she is VC 367 in the line, Nightsister Merrin, and we have a small description of the character followed by the vintage collection logo and additional images of the card and figure. So like I mentioned before, it's great to see more video game characters making their way into the vintage collection. Additionally, it's also nice that Cal is not on his own and just fighting trooper repaints and stuff like that. So keep them coming, Hasbro. And don't forget to go back and give us Cal Kestis' first look and second sister and a bunch of other figures that would be wonderful to have in the vintage collection. Taking a look at Nightsister Merrin out of the packaging and focusing on the photoreal and portrait, this is really a fun head sculpt that they've worked on here. I really like all the detail in the hair there, just like the way it's parted and falls on her face looks absolutely fantastic. That's some great sculpting work right there. Other than that, we've got some paint applications that help highlight the shadows around her eye, her eyebrows, and like Nightsister makeup. And yeah, all in all, looking pretty good. But like I said, we got some really nice detail there in terms of like the hair and stuff like that. So a pretty decent sculpt. And if we take a look at some of the other paint applications like on her belt and just her attire, really nice stuff going on there and lots of like small details that, sometimes we don't see on all of our figures. And as you can see back here, you even got some sculpting on her knife and sheath. So that's really cool as well. So yeah, all in all, I think the photoreal and the paint applications on this one are absolutely spectacular. Nightsister Merrin comes with a total of 4 accessories: her spear, dagger, force push hand, and green Nightsister magic. Moving on to the rest of the figure and the articulation, Nightsister Merrin has everything I want to see on an action figure in general. Lots of points of articulation and dynamic stance abilities. So, of course, we have the barbell hip system, which is great, swivel at the thigh, a bend at the knee, which is definitely past 90 degrees, fantastic. And then we have rocker ankles, which also have the forward motion hinge. So she will be able to do some really good posing in terms of the lower leg articulation. So that is great. Moving on to the upper body, we actually have a torso crunch right here. That's good, 360 degrees. As you can see, she can hold the staff pretty decently. Unfortunately, there is no hinge at the wrist. It just has a swivel, which is 360 degrees. If we get that out of here. Yeah, that's a bit of a bummer, I've talked about this before on the channel. These characters with smaller wrists or like female characters just don't get that hinge, which is most unfortunate. And we'll take a look at the accessory in just a moment because that's a little bit of a saving point. But moving on, she's got some really good sculpting too on this jacket, I will say. It is a soft plastic removable item. She does have great range of motion that's not really hindered by it too much. You see they kind of sculpted it a certain way right here where it allows her arm to like kind of go kind of higher up. Of course, she has a hinge at the elbow as well, which is pretty much a 90 degree. And then, yeah, moving on to the head articulation, pretty decent. You can look down side to side, but not so much up. And I've noticed a couple people kind of saying that like her neck looks a little too long and this head sits up there. And you can kind of see that gapping. I may or may not like Dremel her head so it sits down a little bit better, but yeah, I think they did that so like her hair and just like the articulation doesn't get interfered by this like hood. But yeah, that's not ideal. I can agree with a lot of people with that nitpick and gripe. So yeah, taking a look at the rest of the figure, lots of good sculpting on the back in terms of like this hood, some good folds there. Of course, we have the knife that comes out of her little sheath on the back, which is great. And yeah, overall a solid figure. This is definitely a good one for customs if you're one of those world builders who wants to make some random like pilots or smugglers and stuff. I see lots of good stuff that can be leveraged here for that. But all in all, I think Nightsister Merrin looks really, really good and is going to make a solid addition to our gaming lineup. So doubling back to some of the accessories and just talking a little bit more about articulation in general, while it's unfortunate she doesn't have a hinge at the wrist, and this is something that some of these characters suffer from, at least we're getting something that I have asked for, which is alternate hands. So you're able to take this off like so. It's made of a soft plastic, so it won't really break or anything. I do get kind of nervous, like I don't want to tear it or anything, but it pops right out. And you can see that the peg itself is pretty thick, but like I guess her hand is too small to like fit a hinge like type of mechanism in there. But I've talked about that before in the past. Maybe the hand can be a little bit bigger. I don't know. But regardless, check it out. We're getting an alternate hand, which is always cool. So now she can actually do something a little bit more interesting since she doesn't have like a certain point of articulation. So I think that's really fun. I'm always a fan of extra accessories, and this is one that should always come with a Force user or any type of character like that. And what's even cooler is that they opted to give us this awesome translucent green effect for her Nightsister magic. Now you kind of have to line it up and then like kind of like wedge her hand into it, which is not the easiest thing. It was kind of weird to do, but there you go. And now she can kind of do some like cool poses with the Nightsister magic on your shelf display. So I actually think that's pretty neat. Good thinking there on Hasbro's part, you know, getting us like an accessory to like help with some of the lack of articulation, if you will, but it also just adds more dollar to your value when picking up some of these figures. So really cool stuff there. Let me know your thoughts about that in the comments down below. The Vintage Collection just got a little more stylish and magical. Nightsister Merrin, the mysterious Dathomirian witch from Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, finally gets her spot in the Vintage Collection lineup, and I must say that 375 fans are in for a real treat. Merrin was first introduced in the 2019 video game Jedi Fallen Order and quickly became a fan favorite, thanks to her commanding presence, haunting backstory, and striking aesthetic. Fast forward to 2025, and this latest offering from the recent Jedi Survivor game brings all of that Nightsister action to life in plastic form. Nightsister Merrin comes fully loaded with all the bells and whistles that a dedicated action figure photographer or collector will appreciate as they pose this proper action figure. Ball-jointed hips, swivels of the thigh, rocker ankles, and a number of hinges on the arms and legs will make for some impeccable action stances. Merrin is packed with a number of accessories, such as her staff and dagger, and an alternate hand, and her signature green energy effect, which is a translucent piece of green plastic sculpted as a swirl of Nightsister magic that you can attach to her alternate Force Push hand accessory. The energy effect is well sculpted and gives her a truly unique and visual flair among other TVC figures in our collections. A must-have for Star Wars action figure collectors and video game fans. I hope you enjoyed this video and taking a look at this latest addition to our Vintage Collection shelf displays, Nightsister Merrin from Jedi Survivor. Feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And don't forget to drop a like on this video and subscribe if you're new to the channel. It really helps and is always greatly appreciated. Thanks everyone, and may the Force be with you.